This is a fan-generated show. If you would like to support us, please go to jamieglazov.com, and also don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. All your support is greatly appreciated.
Good evening. Welcome to the Glazov Gang. Tonight, the young Messiah. Our very special guest with us, Cyrus Nowrasteh. He is an American screenwriter and director of theatrical films, television shows, and made-for-TV movies. He is best known for his films The Path to 9/11 and The Stoning of Sariah M. And his new film is The Young Messiah, the story of a 7-year-old Jesus as he tries to discover the truth about his life when he returns to Nazareth from Egypt. Cyrus, what an honor to have you on the Glazov Gang.
Good to be with you, Jamie.
Thank you very much. Well, look, let's just begin. I watched the film, very moving, profound, just fascinating. You did an incredible job, Cyrus. Tell us about what inspired you to do this movie.
Well, it started with, I guess I've been on a journey towards Christianity for many years, probably started when I got married. And what happened was, through a series of accidents and circumstances, Anne Rice wrote a rave review of the stoning of Sariah M., and she had written a book called Christ the Lord Out of Egypt. She sent us the book and said, you should make this as your next movie. So my wife Betsy and I looked at it. Betsy, I write screenplays with her as well. We did the stoning of Sariah M. together. And Betsy knew the book. We fell in love with it. I thought it was a beautiful story. And it was kind of new territory. It was a Jesus movie that was exploring his years as a child, which aren't really covered in the Bible. So there was some risk attached to diving in, but I thought she'd written a beautiful book. And we sort of leaped at the opportunity. And so fortunately, we were able to, find partners and ultimately get the movie made.
No, absolutely. And it's very difficult in terms of, adhering to biblical orthodoxy, if that's what we would call it, because, the Bible does have several references, but we don't know that much. How did you find to find a balance here in terms of what you could allude to and what information you could use?
Well, there's no real rule book on it. To me, it's in how you do it. Are you doing it with reverence, with respect? Are you showing a kind of love for Jesus and his word in your depiction of his years as a child? So the best guide that you have is how Jesus conducted himself as an adult during his ministry, which is relayed in the Bible. So it's really just trying to adhere to those guidelines that we know. And Anne Rice did it in her book. We did it in our adaptation of the script. And, we got a lot of, there was a lot of skepticism out there, I will admit. But I think when people saw the movie and we took it around in advance of its release earlier this year to show to religious leaders and influencers, and we got a ton of support.
Absolutely. And Cyrus, I was very moved by the film, just in terms of this theme of when does the young Jesus realize and understand who he is and what his mission is? And when do his parents, does his mother tell him? And this was depicted, I think, very beautifully. Tell us about some of those scenes and maybe some of the things you agonized over.
Well, there is this debate about when did Jesus know, and so it depends on which theologian you happen to be talking to. There is the divine Jesus, and then there's the human Jesus. We're depicting the human Jesus. He knows sort of that there's something different about him, but he hasn't put all the pieces together, the human side of young Jesus, the boy. So in other words, the divine Jesus sort of subverted that knowledge so that the human side of him could experience life as we know it as a human being and share that life. So I think it's taking that leap that basically he sublimated his divinity in order to experience life as a child and as an adult. And the boy knows there's something different about him, and in the course of our story, he comes to sort of the realization, the full realization, through questions, through a journey on his own, and also through Mother Mary telling him.
Absolutely. And Cyrus, the whole movie was beautiful, but just some scenes just off the top of my head that really stayed with me. There's, not just one, but there's one especially powerful scene when Mary is very worried with Joseph, and they're talking to another of when and how and what to say. And she's even questioning herself and if she has the strength to go through with all this. And Joseph is giving her the confidence and giving her that support. Very beautiful scene. I mean, the audience has got to watch this film. But tell us about that particular scene that I'm discussing.
Well, it's, the young boy knows that there are answers in Jerusalem in the temple, and he wants to go for Passover. And at this time, it was a very chaotic time in the Holy Land. The Romans were an occupying force. Young Herod had just come to the throne. There was a rebellion, there was chaos, and there are many fears surrounding them. They know that there was, they had to leave Bethlehem 7 years earlier because of the slaughter of the innocents. So there's danger and threats out there. So she's very concerned. And she's and sort of the pressure and the burden of raising this very special child is what that scene is about, is what she's expressing to Joseph. I think one of the things in this movie, one of the challenges and one of the pleasures of this movie was to take you inside the Holy Family in a fashion that you hadn't seen before. You're seeing Joseph and Mary as parents. You're seeing him as a child, and they're really not that different from our families.
Absolutely. Beautifully done. Let's use this particular moment to play the trailer of the film for our audience.
Listen well, because I'm only going to tell the story once. One morning, my room filled with light, and it spoke to me. It said that from my womb would come a son. You, named Jesus. I was just 14 when you were born. A girl, really. Why did God choose me? What if I'm not strong enough?
We must trust God every day.
What do we tell our little boy?
How do we explain God to his own son?
Keep your power inside you until your Father in heaven shows you the time to use it.
There are rumors of a boy born in Bethlehem. You have your assignment.
Go! Go!
The Messiah is born. His star has been seen. He will deliver us.
You seek a family from Nazareth with a boy named Jesus.
Lord Father in heaven, guide me on this path.
He's in the temple. Who are you?
He's just a child.
He is not just a child.
Wow, very, very powerfully done, Cyrus. Let's move on. Just incredible, very powerful scene when Mary is talking to Jesus and really letting him know who he is. And there's a part in there where she's telling him to, keep the power within him until the Father asks him to use it. Tell us about that scene. It must have been very difficult, and I thought that the actress, I think her name is Sarah Lazaro, correct?
Yes.
She just did a magnificent job. I just thought it was a perfect scene. Tell us about it.
Well, Sarah is a wonderful actress. I actually found her in Rome. She's Italian. She's half Italian, half American. And we filmed this in Italy. And when you're making a film in a foreign locale, you want to cast as much as possible locally. And I wanted to cast unknowns or relative unknowns in the parts of the Holy Family. So I was looking actually at Joseph's in Rome on the computer with the Rome casting director. And off screen, reading with them, was a Mary who was just the reader. She was the girl in the room to read to the actors who were auditioning for Joseph. And after we looked at the tapes, I said, I don't know about those Josephs, but who's that Mary who's reading off screen? What does she look like? How old is she? She ended up with the part. So, she's a wonderful actress. And that scene that you're talking about is the scene that the whole movie is leading toward. It's really sort of the answer to the question. So it's kind of, I guess we got to put out a little spoiler alert, but the bottom line is it's really a scene between a mother and a child, and I think any mother and any child for that matter can identify with it, because our parents oftentimes have to sit us down and tell us things that are difficult, amazing, heartrending, whatever. And that's one of those scenes, because at that time they knew that the life of a prophet was going to be a difficult one.
Yeah.
We're talking about, ancient times, biblical times. The forecast for the life expectancy of any prophet was always, minimal. So she knows in effect that he has a journey, he has his ministry, he has a duty to perform, but she's also his son, and she loves him. And so it's almost like she's sending him off into the world. It's, that scene really came together beautifully. The actors were just on the mark. The young boy is wonderful. It was a beautiful day. We were going to shot it in a beautiful olive grove outside of Rome, actually on the grounds of the Emperor Hadrian's villa outside of Rome is where we shot that. That's where that olive grove is. And it's one of those scenes that just clicked, and it's probably the most important scene in the movie.
Well, absolutely, Cyrus. And also, as a Christian, I just have to say that the movie has stayed with me since I watched it, and that scene and so many other scenes. There's something very, very beautiful and very special in the film and in all these beautiful scenes. Let me talk with you a little bit about your own faith for a minute. And, this is a tremendous responsibility. Nobody's, I don't think, has really done this on film before. Was there some fear? Was there some trepidation? There's a lot of obligation in making a film like this.
No, there's always some fear and trepidation, especially because of the nature of what this is. And I'm relatively new to Christianity. My family's of Muslim origin, as you know. And I did feel that responsibility, but I also felt confident that I was going to, and with my wife Betsy beside me, sort of approach the story in a proper way and with the proper level of reverence and focus. And I just felt like I was the right person to bring it to the screen. And I think it is truly and this is one of the reasons I was attracted to it. It's the most original approach to a Jesus story that I've ever come across.
Yeah.
And it was an honor and a pleasure to do it, to make this film.
Well, it's an honor and a pleasure to speak to you about it because very, very moving film. Let me just ask you, just in terms of what we do know, we know that in Luke chapter 2, chapters 48 to 49, we do have, when he was, to the best of my knowledge, 12 years old, when he was speaking in the temple in Jerusalem, and Mary and Joseph had lost him temporarily. And then they asked the young Jesus at the age of 12, where were you? We were worried about you. And, he says in there, why are you worried for me? Don't you know that I'm, about my Father's business? It's translated a little bit differently in different translations of the Bible. What does that speak to you, and how it influenced you in this film? In terms of, we realized that by 12 he had kind of realized what he had to do, but then we're wondering, age of 4, 8, 10, right?
Well, in our movie, he's age 7.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he does end up in the temple. It's very common for Jewish families from that era. This is a Jewish family that we're presenting in this movie, would go to temple, go to Jerusalem for Passover. And the boy knows that there are answers in Jerusalem. There are answers in the temple, that the rabbis and the scholars will all sort of go there and debate and discuss. And so it's kind of foreshadowing of what happens in age 12. In fact, there are many moments in the movie that foreshadow events later on in Jesus' life.
Absolutely. Cyrus, was there some struggle? You don't have to tell us too much, but how about in the background of, I think that, for a person who made this film, I really believe your intuition and instincts in terms of the disposition of Mary, Joseph, and Jesus, I think it was really done perfectly with so much tenderness and, just a very profound, you can feel that there's something very biblically sound there. But was there some struggle in the background in terms of you arguing with yourself, or perhaps some disagreements with others in how exactly to make a scene work?
Well, to me, the most important work is in the writing of the script. We're adapting a novel. We could not do a literal adaptation of the book. Sometimes when you're adapting, you have to reinvent and refashion while still remaining faithful to the themes and the ideas and the story in the book, but you have to make changes. So I'd say the most important work is done in the script stage. Once I have that script, I'm very careful about, workshopping it, auditioning actors, rehearsing, really going through that process of preparation so that by the time we're shooting it, the only accidents that happen are usually good ones. So, and there's not a lot of tussling going on. And I think that has to do with preparation more than anything else. But it also, we're open to spontaneity. I always am. And it's easier the better prepared you are.
Yeah. In terms of your faith, obviously, did Cyrus come out a bit of a different Christian in some ways after the film than before the film?
Unquestionably, yes. I just felt like the journey in making this film, it was not easy to get this film up. And I think it took a certain amount of real belief and commitment. And then by the end of it, too, a kind of transformation where I just felt like, as a Christian, I just felt more comfortable and more understanding and more accepting of a lot of aspects of Christianity that I may not have been as familiar with before.
Cyrus, how about, the path to 9/11, that whole political sphere, the stoning of Sariah M., a lot of darkness there. And of course, in this story, we also, of course, when we deal with God and Jesus and Mary, of course, we deal with Satan and Lucifer. But overall, this was and is, as we know, a story of redemption, a very inspiring story. Just how was this different for you as a director to move into the story of a young Jesus as opposed to the stoning of an innocent girl in Islam?
Well, stoning of Sariah M. is very dear to my heart, and I think a very important film that had a huge impact inside of Iran because it was smuggled inside of Iran, and millions of people there have seen it, and it had a huge impact there, and I'm very proud of it. But at its essence, it was a journey into darkness. It was a journey into a situation that we all lament, and many Iranians lament, that has taken place inside of Iran. The Young Messiah is a journey into the light, and it's a different kind of movie. But yes, there is darkness within it because the light has no value without that darkness.
Yeah. Cyrus, where can people see The Young Messiah now? It was in theaters, and now, to the best of my knowledge, it's going into DVD, right?
Right, yeah, we opened in early March. We've been playing around the country. I think we're in very few screens right now. Batman has a way of pushing you off the screens and across this country. But we are released on DVD in June, and I'm really looking forward to that. It'll be released, also available on streaming. So if people were unable to catch it in the theaters, I hope they'll look for it either on their service, until their streaming service, or at their local DVD or Blu-ray.
And where's the best website for them to go to educate themselves a bit more in preparation?
They can go to theyoungmessiah.com. Okay. And they'll see all the endorsements that we got from multiple and different religious leaders and influencers from all different denominations.
Were they a pleasant surprise to you in terms of the reaction and the support?
Oh, yes, absolutely. We got many more endorsements than we expected. We got very little pushback. We were very happy with the reception of the film.
Cyrus Nowrasteh, what an honor and a pleasure to have you on the program, and thank you so much for making The Young Messiah.
Thanks, Jamie. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Cyrus. And our audience, make sure you see the film The Young Messiah. Really worth watching. We'll see you on the next episode. Good night.
This is a fan-generated show. If you would like to support us, please go to jamieglazov.com, and also don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. All your support is greatly appreciated.